The three silver ships cut through space like knives through dark water. Ambassador Ra stood on the bridge of the lead vessel, her tall, thin frame casting shadows across the control panels. Her purple skin gleamed under the soft lights as she watched the stars ahead. Today would change everything, she hoped. Today, the war might finally end. "We are approaching Prime, Ambassador," said Commander from his station. His four arms moved quickly across the controls, checking and double-checking their position. Like all, he was careful and precise. War had taught their people to be cautious. "Good," Ra replied. Her voice carried the weight of 1,000 dead worlds. The war between her people and the Draconis Empire had been going on for 6 long years. Entire star systems had been turned to ash. Billions had died. But now, finally, there was a chance for peace. The moon of Prime floated before them, gray and silent. It was perfect for their meeting neutral ground that belonged to neither side. Here, she would meet with the Draconis war leaders. Here, they would try to end the killing. "Sensors show we are alone," reported. "The Draconis ship should arrive in 3 hours." Ra nodded. She walked to the large window and looked out at the empty space around them. Stars glittered like tiny diamonds against the black. It was beautiful and peaceful. She hoped it would stay that way. But something was wrong. The voice changed, becoming sharp and worried. "Ambassador, I am reading something strange on the sensors." "What is it?" She turned back to face him. "Ships," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Large ships. They were not there a moment ago." On the main screen, a dark shape appeared. It was huge and angular, like a piece of the night sky had broken off and started moving. The ship had no lights, no markings, nothing that looked familiar. It was just darkness given form. "Where did it come from?" Ra asked. "I do not know," replied. "It simply appeared. The sensors show nothing, then suddenly it is there." Another ship materialized on the other side of their small fleet, then another, and another. Within minutes, 12 massive dark vessels had surrounded the convoy. They moved without sound, without any energy signatures that the sensors could read. They were like ghosts made of metal and shadow. "Try to contact them," Ra ordered. Her hands shook slightly, but her voice remained steady. "All frequencies, all languages." The communications officer, a young named On, worked frantically at his station. "No response, Ambassador. They are not answering on any channel." The dark ships began to move. Slowly, carefully, they formed a perfect sphere around the 3 vessels. Each ship stayed exactly the same distance away. Each moved in perfect timing with the others. It was like watching a deadly dance performed by shadows. "What do they want?" On whispered. "I do not know," Ra said. But inside, fear was growing like ice in her chest. These ships were not like anything in any galactic database. Their technology was beyond anything she had ever seen, and they had appeared without warning, without sound, like death itself. Commander studied his tactical displays. "Ambassador, look at this formation. It is perfect. No gaps, no weaknesses. They know exactly what they are doing." "Can we break through?" "I do not think so. They are positioned perfectly to stop any escape attempt. It is like they know our ships better than we do." Hours passed. The dark ships continued their slow rotation around the trapped convoy. They never broke formation. They never responded to any attempts at communication. They just watched and waited like hunters circling their prey. Ra tried everything she could think of. She offered them trade agreements. She threatened them with military action. She begged them to at least tell her what they wanted. Nothing worked. The dark ships remained silent and threatening. "Ambassador," On said softly, "I am receiving a message from the Draconis fleet." "Put it through." The screen flickered and the fierce face of General Orr appeared. His scales were deep red and his eyes burned with anger. "Scum," he growled. "What is the meaning of this trap? These ships that surround you, they are yours, yes?" "No," Ra said quickly. "We know nothing about them. They trapped us here just as they are trapping you." The general's expression changed from anger to confusion, then to fear. They have surrounded us as well, 12 ships dark as space itself. They appeared from nowhere. Ra felt her blood turn cold. If both fleets were trapped, then whoever these beings were, they were incredibly powerful. They had managed to surround 2 different battle fleets without either side detecting them until it was too late. "General, we must work together," she said. "Whatever these beings want, we are both in danger." "Agreed," Or said, his pride forgotten in the face of this new threat. "My scanners cannot penetrate their hulls. My weapons cannot lock onto them. It is as if they are made of shadow itself." As night fell on their side of Prime, the dark ships became almost invisible against the black of space. Only their movement revealed their presence, like holes in the stars that shifted and changed. Ra stood on her bridge and watched them circle endlessly. She had negotiated with pirates, dealt with mad dictators, and faced down entire battle fleets. But this was different. This was something beyond her understanding. "Commander," she said quietly, "how long can our supplies last?" 6 days, maybe 7 if we are careful." "And our weapons?" "Fully charged, but Ambassador," hesitated, "I do not think our weapons would be useful against ships like these." Ra nodded. She was beginning to understand that they were not prisoners. They were specimens. Something was studying them, learning about them, preparing for something larger. The question was, what came next? Outside, the hunter ships continued their silent dance, patient as death itself. 3 days had passed since the dark ships first appeared. Ambassador Ra had not slept well in any of those days. Every time she closed her eyes, she could feel them out there, watching, waiting, studying her people like insects under glass. The hunter ships never stopped moving. Day and night they circled in their perfect formation. Sometimes they moved faster, sometimes slower, but they never broke their pattern. It was like being trapped inside a giant clock, with death marking each second. Commander approached her station, his face grim. "Ambassador, we have tried 17 different escape routes. Each time, they knew exactly what we would do. They moved to block us before we even started." "That is impossible," Ra said, but her voice lacked conviction. Nothing about this situation made sense anymore. "Watch this," said, activating a tactical display. "Yesterday, I planned to use our emergency thrusters to break toward the moon. I told no one about this plan. I kept it in my head only. But look." The display showed the hunter ship's movements from the previous day. Even before had given any orders, 3 of the dark vessels had shifted position to block the exact route he had been thinking about. "How?" Ra whispered. "I do not know, but it gets worse. Watch today's formation." The display updated to show the current positions. The hunter ships had moved again, blocking 2 more escape routes that had not even finished planning yet. "They are not just predicting our moves," he said quietly. "They are predicting our thoughts." On the other side of the trapped area, General Or was dealing with his own problems. His mighty Draconis fleet, which had crushed a dozen worlds, was helpless inside the cage of dark ships. His warriors were beginning to panic. "General," his aide whispered, "the men are talking. They say these ships are cursed. They say they are demons from the void." Or's scaled fist slammed down on his command chair. "Demons do not exist. These are ships with crews, with technology we can understand and defeat." But even as he said it, he did not believe it. The hunter ships moved too perfectly, responded too quickly, knew too much. They were something beyond normal understanding. Strange things had begun happening on both fleets. Computer systems would malfunction for exactly 13 minutes, then repair themselves without any help. Life support would flicker on and off, never long enough to be dangerous, but always long enough to cause fear. On Ra's ship, the lights in her quarters would dim every night at the same time. The temperature would drop by exactly 3 degrees. Her personal computer would display star charts of systems she had never seen before, then return to normal when anyone else looked at it. "They are playing with us," she told during one of their quiet conversations. "This is not about capturing us or killing us. This is about learning." "Learning what?" "How we think, how we react, what frightens us." She paused, looking out at the endless dance of hunter ships. "We are being studied." The communications between the two trapped fleets had become the only bright spot in the growing darkness. Ra and General, or enemies for 6 years, now found themselves working together. Their shared fear had made them allies. "My science officer has a theory," or told her during one of their daily talks. "He believes these ships are not crewed by living beings. The movements are too perfect, too coordinated. No living crew could maintain this formation for days without making mistakes." "You think they are machines?" "Perhaps, or perhaps they are controlled by something that thinks differently than we do. Something that does not get tired, does not get bored, does not make errors." That night On made a discovery that chilled everyone on the bridge. "Ambassador, I have been analyzing their scanning patterns. They are not just watching us randomly. They are following a specific program." "What kind of program?" "They scan our weapons first, then our engines, then our life support, then our crew quarters. The same pattern, over and over every 6 hours. But each time they spend a little longer on each scan. They are learning more each time." "Learning for what?" asked. On's voice was barely audible. "I think they are preparing for something. Building a complete picture of how our technology works, how our people think, how we would react in different situations." "But why?" Before On could answer, every screen on the bridge flickered. For just a moment, text appeared in a language none of them recognized. Then it was gone, replaced by their normal displays. "Did you see that?" Ra asked. "Yes," replied, "but our computers show no record of it. According to our logs, nothing happened." Similar events were happening throughout both fleets. Crew members would see things that were not there, hear voices speaking in unknown languages, find messages on their personal computers that would vanish when they tried to show others. On the fourth day, the hunter ships changed their behavior. Instead of the steady, predictable circling, they began to move in complex patterns. Sometimes all 12 would move to one side, leaving a gap that looked like an escape route. But when either fleet tried to approach, the gap would close so fast it seemed impossible. "They are testing us," Ra realized, "seeing how quickly we respond to opportunities, how we make decisions under pressure." "Like laboratory animals," said bitterly. "Yes, exactly like that." The worst part was not knowing what came next. The hunter ships had proven they could capture both fleets easily. They could have destroyed them even more easily. But they did neither. They just watched and learned and waited. Food supplies were running low on both sides. Water recyclers were beginning to strain. The crews were tired and afraid. But the hunter ships showed no signs of ending their vigil. They could apparently wait forever. "What do we do?" General or asked during their evening communication. For the first time since the crisis began, Ra had no answer. They were trapped not just by the hunter ships, but by their own ignorance. They did not know who their captors were, what they wanted, or what would happen next. All they could do was wait and hope that whatever was coming would be something they could survive. Outside their ships, the hunters continued their patient dance, counting down to something none of the trapped crews could imagine. On the 7th morning, everything changed. Ambassador Ra was drinking her morning tea, trying to ignore the constant anxiety that had become her daily companion, when Commander's voice cut through the bridge like a knife. "Ambassador, the hunter ships have stopped." She rushed to the main screen, nearly dropping her cup. For 7 days, the dark vessels had circled them endlessly. Now, for the first time, they hung motionless in space. All 12 ships had turned to face outward, pointing away from the trapped fleets like fingers aiming at something in the distance. "What are they doing?" she asked. "I do not know," replied, his 4 hands dancing across his controls. but sensors are detecting massive energy buildups in hyperspace. Something big is coming. The space around Prime began to ripple like water. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist as massive hyperspace tiers opened in the darkness. Through these tiers, shapes began to emerge that made the hunter ships look like toys. The first ship to appear was longer than a city. Its hull was white and silver, covered with markings that looked both beautiful and terrifying. Weapons arrays studded its surface like the scales of some great beast. Behind it came another ship, then another, then dozens more. "By the ancient gods," whispered, "what are those things?" Ra had seen many space fleets in her life. She had witnessed the great battle cruisers of the Draconis Empire and the elegant destroyers of her own people. But these ships were different. They moved with a purpose that was almost alive, positioning themselves with impossible precision. Each vessel was unique, yet they all shared the same sense of controlled power. On the communication screen, General Orr's face appeared, his red scales pale with shock. "Are you seeing this?" "Yes," Ra replied. "What are they?" "I do not know, but look at the markings on their hulls." Ra ordered her crew to zoom in on the nearest massive ship. The symbols on its side were angular and strange, unlike any writing system in the known galaxy. But there was something familiar about them, something that made her stomach cold with recognition. "I know these markings," she said slowly, "but that is impossible." "What are they?" asked. Before she could answer, every communication system on both fleets activated at once. A voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect, then switching to perfect Draconis, then to a dozen other languages. "Attention vessels of the Republic and the Draconis Empire. This is Captain Sarah of the Terran Colonial Navy vessel Retribution. You are ordered to maintain your current positions and prepare to be boarded for questioning." The blood drained from Ra's face. "Terran," she whispered. The humans had found them. Every civilized being in the galaxy knew about humans, but they were supposed to be legends, stories told to frighten children. They were the species that had appeared from nowhere centuries ago, conquered half the known galaxy in a matter of years, then vanished back to their home system without explanation. They were the boogeyman that kept other species from venturing too far into unknown space. But they were not supposed to be real anymore. They were supposed to be gone. "This cannot be happening," General Orr said, his voice shaking. "The humans disappeared. They went back to their home world and never came out." The communication channel crackled again, and a new image appeared on their screens. It was a human woman, tall and lean, with gray eyes that seemed to look right through them. Her skin was pale, and scars crossed her left cheek like pale lightning. She wore a dark uniform covered with symbols that spoke of authority and violence. "I am Captain," she said, her voice calm and cold. "You seem surprised to see us. That is understandable. We have been very careful to stay out of sight." "What do you want?" Ra managed to ask. "What we want," Captain replied, "is to understand why you thought it was acceptable to destroy one of our research stations." The words hit Ra like a physical blow. "What research station?" "Station Prometheus, in the Vega system. 300 human civilians were conducting peaceful scientific research when your war spilled into our space. They are all dead now." "That was an accident," General Orr protested. "We did not know humans were still active in that region." "Of course you did not know," Captain said, and her smile was terrifying. "We made sure you did not know. For 200 years we have watched from the shadows, keeping track of every species, every fleet, every threat to galactic stability. We allowed you to believe you were alone, free to make your own choices. But you destroyed our station, you killed our people, and that changes everything." Behind Captain, the bridge of her ship was visible. It was filled with humans working at stations covered with technology that looked impossibly advanced. Holographic displays showed tactical information that made Ra's head spin. Maps of the entire galaxy, marked with positions of fleets she had never heard of. ship designs that known physics, weapons systems that could crack planets. The hunter ships said suddenly, they were yours. Of course they were, Captain replied. Stealth frigates from the Fifth Fleet. They have been watching you for weeks, learning your capabilities, your tactics, your psychology. We needed to understand exactly what we were dealing with before we revealed ourselves. You have been spying on us, Ra accused. We have been protecting the galaxy from you, Captain corrected. Do you have any idea how many wars we have prevented, how many genocides we have stopped, how many species we have saved from their own stupidity? On the tactical displays behind her, images flashed by showing human interventions across the centuries, asteroid strikes redirected away from populated worlds, plague ships mysteriously vanishing before they could spread death, warlords assassinated just before they could launch campaigns of destruction. For 2 centuries, we have been the galaxy's immune system, Captain continued, working in secret, solving problems before they became threats, maintaining the balance that allows lesser species to survive and grow. Lesser species, General or growled. Yes, Captain said simply. Lesser species. You wage war with nuclear weapons and chemical toxins. We reshape gravity and manipulate time. You fight over planets and systems. We have technologies that could rebuild the galaxy from scratch if we chose to use them. But we have been content to remain hidden, to let you play at being galactic powers while we handled the real threats. The things that come from outside the galaxy, the ancient machines left by dead civilizations, the cosmic events that could end all life if left unchecked. You were never in charge of anything, she said, her voice gentle but final. You were just allowed to believe you were. The implications of her words sank in slowly. Every major political decision, every peace treaty, every technological breakthrough had been guided or allowed by human intervention. The galaxy had been under human control the entire time, and no one had known it. What happens now? Ra asked. Captain's expression softened slightly. Now, we clean up the mess you made. Your war ends today. Both of your fleets will be escorted back to your home systems. Your governments will receive new instructions about how things will work from now on. And if we refuse? Captain looked directly at Ra, and in her eyes was the weight of stars. You will not refuse, she said quietly, because refusing us is not something anyone gets to do twice. Ambassador Ra tried to find her diplomatic voice, the one that had ended conflicts and saved lives across dozens of worlds. Captain, surely we can discuss this like civilized beings. The destruction of your station was truly an accident. We can offer compensation, reparations, whatever you think is fair. Captain listened with the patience of someone who had all the time in the galaxy. When Ra finished speaking, the human woman nodded slowly. Civilized beings, she repeated, as if tasting the words. An interesting choice of words, Ambassador. Let me show you what civilization actually looks like. The space around Prime suddenly filled with light. Ships began appearing everywhere, materializing out of what seemed like empty space. Not dozens, but hundreds. Massive battleships that dwarfed anything either the or the Draconis had ever built. Sleek destroyers that moved like living things. Carrier vessels so large they could have held entire cities. How many ships do you have? General or asked, his voice barely a whisper. This is just the local response fleet, Captain replied casually. The 7th Fleet happened to be conducting exercises nearby. Would you like to see our full strength? No, Ra said quickly, this is sufficient. But Captain was not finished with her demonstration. Computer, display tactical analysis of current vessels. The screen filled with information that made Ra's head spin. Every ship in both the and Draconis fleets was outlined in detail. Their armor thickness, weapon capabilities, crew numbers, fuel levels, even the names of their captains. Information that should have been impossible to obtain was laid out like items in a catalog. We know the manufacturing date of every bolt in your ships, Captain said. We know what you had for breakfast this morning. We know about the secret weapon systems you have hidden in your cargo holds. We know about the backup plans your governments have never shared with you. More data scrolled across the screen. Military installations throughout both empires, troop movements, supply routes, secret bases that were supposed to be unknown to enemy forces. The humans had mapped everything, understood everything. "This is impossible," Commander protested. "Our security systems are the best in the galaxy." "Your security systems were designed to stop other species like yourselves," Captain explained. "They were never meant to stop us. For the past 6 months, we have had observer teams on both your home worlds, in your military headquarters, sitting in on your planning meetings. Your war has been as transparent to us as watching fish in a bowl." General Orr's face had gone from red to purple with rage. "You had no right. These were private military discussions." "We had every right," Captain said, her voice becoming harder. "When your private discussions led to the death of 300 human civilians, it became our business." "But let me show you something more interesting," she continued. "Computer, display comprehensive tactical assessment." The screen changed to show a three-dimensional map of the entire galaxy. Thousands of star systems were marked with different colored symbols: red for military targets, blue for population centers, green for industrial facilities, yellow for research installations. "What you are looking at," Captain said, "is every significant military asset belonging to both your species. Every shipyard, every weapon factory, every training academy, every command bunker. All of it." Ross stared at the display in growing horror. The level of detail was incredible. The humans had not just been watching the war, they had been preparing for this moment for years. "Now watch," Captain said and touched a control. Across the galaxy, things began happening simultaneously. On the display, red symbols started blinking out one by one, military bases going dark, weapon factories shutting down, shipyards losing power. It was happening everywhere at once with clockwork precision. "What are you doing?" Ra demanded. "Ending your war," Captain replied simply. "Every military facility belonging to both your species is being neutralized as we speak. Not destroyed, we are not barbarians. Simply turned off." Communication signals started flooding in from across both empires. Panicked reports from base commanders, confused messages from fleet admirals, desperate calls for help from planetary governors. All saying the same thing: their military forces were being shut down by technologies they could not understand or resist. "How?" General Orr asked. "Nanotechnology," Captain explained. "For the past 2 years, every piece of military equipment purchased by either of your governments has contained microscopic human monitoring devices. When activated, they can disable anything from a single weapon to an entire space station." "You infected our entire military," Ra was aghast. "We protected our interests," Captain corrected. "We allowed you to maintain the illusion of independence while ensuring you could never become a real threat, to us or to the galaxy at large." The tactical display continued to update. Within 2 hours, both the Republic and the Draconis Empire had lost the ability to wage war. Their fleets were dead in space, their weapons factories silent, their command centers dark. 6 years of war, Captain said, ended in 120 minutes. No massive battles, no heroic last stands, no billions of dead. Just the simple application of superior technology and forward planning. "You have been planning this all along," Ra realized. "We plan for everything, Ambassador. Every war, every natural disaster, every potential threat to galactic stability. We have contingency plans for asteroid impacts, plague outbreaks, alien invasions from other galaxies, and the eventual heat death of the universe." "The heat death of the universe?" asked weakly. "We are working on it," Captain said with what might have been humor. "The preliminary calculations are promising." She turned serious again. "But that is a problem for another day. Today, we deal with your war and your species' inability to govern themselves responsibly." Communication channels throughout the galaxy began broadcasting the same message simultaneously. A formal declaration from the Terran Colonial Authority announcing the end of the Draconis conflict and the establishment of new protocols for interstellar relations. This message is being transmitted to every government, every military leader, every news organization in the galaxy, Captain informed them. By tomorrow, everyone will know that humanity has resumed active management of galactic affairs. Active management, General Orr asked. "We never stopped managing," Captain corrected. "We just did it quietly. But your reckless behavior has forced us to be more direct. From now on, there will be no confusion about who sets the rules." On the display behind her, human ships were already moving to occupy key positions throughout both empires. Not as invaders, but as administrators. Traffic control stations, customs checkpoints, peacekeeping bases. The infrastructure of control being established with the same precise efficiency that had ended the war. "Your species will maintain your governments, your cultures, your ways of life," Captain continued. "But major decisions affecting galactic stability will now require our approval. Wars will not be permitted. Weapons of mass destruction will be controlled. Space travel will be regulated." "You are conquering us," Ra said. "We are managing you," Captain replied. "The same way a parent manages children who have proven they cannot be trusted with dangerous toys. And if we refuse to accept this management—" Captain looked at her with something that might have been pity. "Ambassador, in the past 2 hours, we have demonstrated that we can disable your entire military at will, that we know every secret your governments possess, and that we can coordinate operations across thousands of light years with perfect timing. What exactly do you think you could refuse?" The question hung in the space between them like a death sentence. Both Ra and General Orr understood that their species had just learned they were not the masters of their own destiny. They never had been. They had been living in a galaxy controlled by humanity, allowed to believe they were free only because the humans had chosen to remain invisible. Now that illusion was over, and the real rulers were stepping out of the shadows. 3 days later, Ambassador Ra found herself aboard the human ship Retribution, walking through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were made of some white material that glowed softly, providing light without any visible source. Her escort, a young human soldier, moved with the same quiet confidence that seemed to mark all of their species. "The captain is waiting for you in conference room 7, the soldier said politely. Ra had been expecting to be treated as a prisoner, but instead she was being treated like a visiting diplomat. The humans had provided comfortable quarters, excellent food, and access to communication with her ship. It was all very civilized, which somehow made it more terrifying than if they had simply locked her in a cell. Conference Room 7 was larger than the bridge of most ships. Captain sat at the head of a long table, with several other human officers arranged around it. Behind them, massive windows showed the space around Prime, where both the and Draconis fleets waited under human guard. "Ambassador," Captain said, gesturing to a chair, "please sit, we have much to discuss." Ra took the offered seat, noting how the chair automatically adjusted to fit her different physiology. Even the small details showed the human's technological superiority. "Your war is over," Captain began without preliminary. "Completely and permanently. Within 72 hours, every military asset belonging to both your species was neutralized. Your governments have already begun receiving instructions about the new reality." "What new reality?" Ra asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. "The Terran Colonial Authority is assuming direct oversight of this sector of the galaxy," Captain explained. Your species will continue to govern yourselves in most matters, but certain areas will now require our approval. One of the other officers, an older man with gray hair, activated a holographic display above the table. It showed the galaxy divided into colored zones, with human installations marked throughout. We call it the containment protocol, he said in accented, designed to prevent the kind of uncontrolled warfare that led to this situation. Containment, Ra asked. Think of it as protective custody, Captain said. Your species have shown that they cannot be trusted to resolve conflicts without destroying everything around them, so we will help you resolve them. By force. By whatever means necessary, Captain confirmed. Though we prefer to use the minimum force required, it is more efficient and causes less resentment. The gray-haired officer highlighted different parts of the galactic map as he spoke. Military production will be limited and monitored. Space travel will require permits for anything beyond your immediate systems. Research into weapons of mass destruction is now forbidden. You are making us prisoners in our own space, Ra protested. We are keeping you from destroying yourselves and others, Captain corrected. The same thing we have been doing quietly for 2 centuries. She touched a control, and the display changed to show historical data. Wars that had ended abruptly for no apparent reason. Natural disasters that had been mysteriously avoided. Technological breakthroughs that had appeared just when they were needed most. Every major crisis in galactic history for the past 200 years has involved human intervention, Captain explained. The plague that should have wiped out half the galaxy was stopped when the infected ships mysteriously lost power before they could spread it. The asteroid impact that would have destroyed the vegan was deflected by unknown forces. The civil war on Altair Prime ended when both sides' weapons simply stopped working. That was all you, Ra asked stunned. All of it, Captain confirmed. We have been the galaxy's invisible guardians, preventing disasters, stopping wars, maintaining the balance that allows civilization to exist. But why? Captain was quiet for a moment, looking out at the stars. Because someone has to, she said finally. Because power without responsibility leads to chaos, and chaos leads to death on an unimaginable scale. When humanity first ventured into space, we made many mistakes. We fought wars that destroyed entire systems. We created weapons that could crack planets. We nearly eliminated ourselves and several other species through our ignorance and aggression. So when we finally matured enough to understand the responsibility that comes with advanced technology, we made a choice. We would not allow other species to make the same mistakes we did. The display changed again, showing images of devastated worlds, dead systems, the remnants of civilizations that had destroyed themselves with their own weapons. Every species goes through a phase where their technology advances faster than their wisdom, the gray-haired officer explained. Most do not survive it. Those that do usually emerge either as conquerors or as guardians. We chose to be guardians. Guardians who remain hidden, Ra asked. Hidden guardians are more effective, Captain said. When people know they are being protected, they become careless. They take risks they would not otherwise take, knowing someone will save them. Better to let them believe they are responsible for their own survival while quietly preventing the worst disasters. But our war forced you to reveal yourselves. Your war killed 300 of our people, Captain said, her voice becoming cold again. That changed everything. We can tolerate many things: stupidity, aggression, even small-scale destruction. But we cannot tolerate attacks on human civilians, even accidental ones. The holographic display zoomed in on a section of space near the Vega system. The wreckage of what had been Research Station Prometheus was barely visible, twisted metal floating in the void. They were studying gravitational anomalies, Captain said quietly. Peaceful research that might have led to better space travel for everyone. Instead, They became collateral damage in your pointless war. Ra felt shame wash over her. We truly did not know humans were there. Of course you did not know, Captain replied. We made sure you did not know. That was the point. But ignorance is not an excuse for carelessness, and carelessness that kills human beings has consequences. What consequences? Ra asked, though she was not sure she wanted to know. The Terran Colonial Authority is establishing permanent oversight of both your species, Captain explained. Human administrators will be assigned to your governments to ensure compliance with galactic stability protocols. Human observers will monitor all military activities. Human peacekeepers will be stationed at key locations to prevent future conflicts. For how long? Until we are satisfied that your species have learned to behave responsibly, Captain said. It could be decades. It could be centuries. That depends entirely on how quickly you adapt to the new reality. The meeting continued for hours as the humans explained the details of their new system. Trade routes that would be monitored to prevent smuggling of dangerous materials. Communication networks that would be supervised to stop the spread of warlike propaganda. Educational programs that would teach the real history of the galaxy and humanity's role in maintaining peace. It was comprehensive, efficient, and absolutely inescapable. The humans had thought of everything, planned for every contingency, prepared for every possible resistance. As Ra was escorted back to her shuttle, she realized the full scope of what had happened. Her people, all the peoples of the galaxy, had been living in an illusion. They had thought they were free, that they controlled their own destinies, that they were the masters of space. Instead, they had been children playing in a carefully maintained playground, watched over by parents they never knew existed. And now that they had broken something important, the parents had stepped in to take more direct control. The shuttle bay doors closed behind her as she departed the Retribution. Through the viewports, she could see the human fleet maintaining their positions around both the and Draconis forces. Not aggressive, not threatening, just present. A constant reminder of who really held power in this galaxy. As her shuttle approached her flagship, Ra wondered what she would tell her people. How do you explain to an entire civilization that everything they believed about themselves was wrong? How do you tell them that their independence was an illusion, their power a joke, their entire existence dependent on the tolerance of beings so advanced they might as well be gods? The answer, she realized, was that you did not tell them. You let them discover it slowly, the way she had. You let them learn to live in the new reality, where humanity no longer hid in the shadows but stood openly as the guardians and rulers of galactic civilization. The war was over. The illusion of freedom was over. The age of human oversight had begun. And somehow, looking out at the peaceful space around Prime, Ra realized that might not be such a terrible thing after all.